Good morning, my friend. Before we begin today's reflection, let me tell you about something that happened yesterday. Something small, almost forgettable in the eyes of the world, but meaningful enough that it stayed with me all evening. Yesterday afternoon, I was standing in line at a grocery store. Nothing unusual about that. The kind of ordinary moment that most of us experience every week. The air was warm, the fluorescent lights hummed above, and the slow rhythm of carts rolling across the floor created that familiar background noise of everyday life. In front of me stood an elderly man. He held only a few items in his hands: bread, a small carton of milk, and a pack of medicine. His hands trembled slightly as he reached into his wallet. I noticed him counting coins very carefully, one by one, almost as if each one carried weight. When the cashier announced the total, the man paused. He counted again, and then quietly said, "I think I'm a little short." It was not a dramatic moment. There were no raised voices, no embarrassment loud enough for the whole store to hear, just a quiet hesitation, the kind that can make a person feel very small. Without thinking too much, I stepped forward and said, "It's okay, I've got it." The man turned around slowly. His eyes widened in surprise, the way someone looks when they did not expect kindness that day. He thanked me more than once. But what stayed with me most was the way his shoulders relaxed after that moment. Something in him softened, the tension disappeared. And as I walked out of the store, carrying my own groceries, I realized something simple but powerful. Doing good rarely feels like a grand, heroic moment. Most of the time, it is quiet. It is ordinary. It is a small decision made in a passing moment. Yet those moments matter more than we realize, because every act of kindness reflects the heart of God. Scripture reminds us in Galatians 6:9, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Every time we choose compassion instead of indifference, every time we choose generosity instead of selfishness, every time we choose love instead of rushing past someone's need, God sees it. He sees the hidden acts that no camera records. He sees the quiet generosity that no one applauds. And in His perfect timing, He rewards what the world overlooks. So today, before we talk about worry, trust, and the promises of God, let this be your gentle reminder. Keep doing good. Keep showing kindness. Keep reflecting the heart of Christ in ordinary moments, because nothing done in love is ever wasted. Now, with that thought in your heart, I'm so glad you're here today. Let me begin by sharing with you a story Jesus told in the book of Luke. I am truly grateful that you chose to spend this moment here today. Life rarely slows down on its own. Schedules continue moving, responsibilities demand attention, and the mind constantly shifts between tasks, plans, and concerns. Choosing to pause, even briefly, creates a small space where the heart can breathe again. In that quiet space, the words of Jesus begin to settle more deeply than they ever could in the rush of daily life. Today, I want to share a moment from the Gospel of Luke that reveals something profound about the way we think about security, provision, and the quiet anxieties that often follow us through life. Imagine the scene as it unfolded that day. Jesus had been teaching outdoors, surrounded by a large gathering of people who had come from many different places. The crowd stretched outward in every direction. Those closest to him listened with intense focus, leaning forward so they would not miss a single word. Others stood farther back, trying to hear his voice as it carried across the open space. Many were absorbed in his teaching, yet their minds were also carrying the weight of ordinary life. Families were struggling with disagreements. Some listeners were burdened by financial pressures. Others were trying to figure out what the future might hold. Concerns about provision, fairness, and survival had always been a part of the human story, and the people gathered around Jesus were no different. While he spoke, a man suddenly raised his voice from within the crowd. "Teacher," he called out, "tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." The request came from a place that felt deeply practical. A dispute about inheritance could tear families apart. Property and resources often represented security, survival, and dignity. The man likely believed that if Jesus simply settled the argument, the tension in his life would finally disappear. Instead of stepping into the role of judge between two brothers, Jesus redirected the entire conversation towards something far more important. Rather than solving the surface problem, he addressed the deeper assumption hidden beneath it. A story began to unfold. He described a wealthy landowner whose fields had produced an extraordinarily abundant harvest. The crops had multiplied beyond expectation. The man suddenly found himself surrounded by more grain than he had space to store. Standing there, looking at the overflowing yield of his land, he began thinking through possible solutions. What should I do? He wondered. Storage had become the problem. His barns were not large enough to contain the abundance before him. After considering the situation, he developed a strategy that appeared wise and efficient. The existing barns would be demolished, and larger structures would replace them. With greater storage capacity, every bit of grain could be preserved safely for the years ahead. Satisfied with the plan, he imagined the future that now seemed secure. "You have plenty of grain laid up for many years," he told himself. The vision in his mind was peaceful. No uncertainty, no fear about the coming seasons. Rest, enjoyment, and comfort appeared guaranteed by the wealth now stored behind those larger walls. From an outside perspective, his actions looked responsible. Hard work had produced results, and planning had protected those results. Many observers would have admired his foresight. Yet the story did not end with the man's confidence. God spoke into the moment. "You fool," came the unexpected response. "This very night your life will be demanded from you." The question that followed shattered the illusion of control. "Then who will receive everything you prepared for yourself?" The harvest was real. The barns were real. The careful planning was real. What the man failed to account for was the fragility of life itself. Every calculation he made assumed tomorrow would always belong to him. Jesus allowed the weight of that moment to settle before explaining the meaning behind the story. The warning was not directed only at wealthy landowners. It spoke to anyone whose sense of security becomes tied entirely to temporary things. Storing treasure on earth while neglecting a relationship with God creates a dangerous imbalance. Resources may grow, possessions may multiply, and plans may expand, yet the heart can remain disconnected from the only foundation that truly lasts. After finishing the story, Jesus turned his attention towards the disciples. He understood the thoughts that were forming in their minds. Rejecting greed sounded noble, yet practical concerns still remained. Food still had to appear on the table, clothing still had to be worn, work still needed to be done. Life could not simply pause while spiritual truths were discussed. Recognizing that tension, he addressed it directly. Luke chapter 12 records his words with remarkable clarity. "Do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear." Those words reach across centuries and meet us exactly where we stand today. Anxiety rarely asks permission before entering the mind. Late at night, it begins to rehearse worst-case scenarios. Early in the morning, it returns with questions about the unknown future. Concern itself is not the enemy. Thoughtful planning helps us navigate responsibilities and make wise decisions. Yet worry crosses a line where thoughts begin to control the person rather than the person guiding the thoughts. At that point, exhaustion replaces clarity. Fear begins to shape perspective. Energy that could be used for living becomes trapped inside endless mental rehearsals of problems that may never arrive. Jesus challenged that entire pattern with a single question. Who among you can add a single hour to your life by worrying? Silence must have followed those words. Everyone listening understood the answer. Anxiety promises control yet delivers fatigue. It offers the illusion of preparation while quietly draining the strength required for tomorrow. Rather than giving complicated instructions about how to eliminate worry, Jesus shifted their attention to something simple and beautiful. He invited them to observe the world around them. The sky held a lesson, the fields held another. Creation itself carried a quiet testimony about the faithfulness of God. And that's where the teaching begins to deepen even further. In the next part of this reflection, Jesus points to one of the most overlooked creatures in nature and uses it to reveal a truth that changes the way we understand provision. After the question about worry settled over the crowd, a quiet pause likely followed. Everyone listening understood the truth behind it. Hours of anxious thinking cannot stretch life even by a single moment. Mental tension promises control, yet it quietly drains the energy needed for tomorrow. Instead of explaining this with complicated reasoning, Jesus invited the listeners to look at something they could see with their own eyes. His attention moved upward. Birds drifted across the open sky above them, carried by currents of wind that required almost no effort from their wings. Their flight looked effortless compared to the heavy concerns weighing on human minds. Then Jesus said something simple. Consider the ravens. Luke chapter 12, verse 24 records his words. They do not sow or reap. They have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable you are than birds. The choice of that particular bird was intentional. Ravens were not admired creatures. In that culture, they were viewed as unclean animals, birds people rarely appreciated. They scavenged along the edges of villages and fields, surviving in places most people ignored. Despite that reputation, Jesus pointed directly to them. That decision reveals something important about the character of God. Provision reaches even the creatures human society overlook. A raven begins each day without planting crops or filling storage barns. No long-term reserves protect its future. Yet food appears again and again as the bird moves through the world. Creation itself has been designed with provision woven into it. Seeds grow in the soil. Insects move through the grass. Fruit ripens on branches. Opportunity exists somewhere within the landscape long before the bird begins searching for it. The raven simply moves through a world already filled with resources prepared by its creator. Jesus was not suggesting that life should be passive or irresponsible. Birds still search, they still move, they still act. What they do not carry is the crushing mental burden humans often place on themselves. The difference reveals something deeper about the way people think about provision. Human beings frequently mistake channels for the source. Employment appears to be the source. Savings accounts appear to be the source. Business opportunities appear to be the source. Confidence rises while those channels remain open. Fear quickly replaces that confidence the moment one pathway becomes uncertain. Jesus gently corrected that misunderstanding. God remains the source. Every job, every opportunity, every resource simply becomes a channel through which provision flows. When one pathway closes, another can appear because the source itself never runs dry. Creation quietly reflects this truth.
Psalm 147 verse 9 says, "He provides food for the cattle and for the young ravens when they call." Let those words settle for a moment. The Creator who governs galaxies still notices the cry of a young raven. No corner of creation escapes his attention. Take a slow breath and allow that thought to reach your heart. If the hunger of a raven reaches the care of heaven, then the needs you carry have never been invisible. Every concern that follows you through the day has already been seen. Every uncertainty about tomorrow rests inside the awareness of a Father who understands far more than we can see. Jesus allowed that image to rest in their minds before continuing. How much more valuable are you than birds? Those words carried enormous weight. Human life bears the image of God. Genesis describes the moment when the breath of the Creator gave life to humanity. From the beginning, value was woven into our existence. A raven receives provision despite being overlooked by society.
The comparison Jesus offered now becomes incredibly powerful. If a creature people rarely admire still receives daily care from God, how much greater is the attention given to a life created in His image? Your existence has never been accidental. Your needs have never surprised heaven. Your life has never been forgotten. Faith begins to grow when the heart remembers that truth. Anxiety speaks in the language of scarcity. Trust begins to recognize the generosity of the Creator. The disciples listening that day were slowly being invited into a completely different perspective on life. Provision does not begin with human effort alone. Provision begins with God. Another example soon followed, guiding their understanding even further. This time, the lesson would not come from the sky above them. It would come from the ground beneath their feet. Fields stretched beyond the crowd, filled with wildflowers that had grown quietly without human effort. Their colors covered the landscape in simple beauty. Those flowers carried another message about the way God cares for His creation. And through them, Jesus revealed something deeply comforting about the way He cares for His children. Attention then shifted from the sky above to the earth beneath their feet. Across the fields surrounding that gathering, wildflowers grew freely. Their colors moved gently with the breeze, covering the landscape in quiet beauty. No gardener had arranged them. No human hand had designed their patterns. Still, they filled the land with life and color. That simple scene became the next lesson. Jesus invited the people to observe something they passed every day without noticing. "Consider the lilies," He said. Luke chapter 12, verse 27 describes His words. "They do not labor or spin, yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these." Those flowers carried a quiet message. A lily does not struggle to become beautiful. Effort is not spent competing with the flower beside it. No anxiety drives its growth. Life unfolds exactly where it has been planted. Roots sink into the soil. Sunlight reaches its petals. Rain nourishes the ground. Beauty appears naturally within the design God placed inside it. The contrast between flowers and human worry becomes striking. People often exhaust themselves trying to control every detail of the future. Thoughts run in endless circles, imagining every possible outcome. Plans multiply. Concerns multiply even faster. Meanwhile, a field of flowers simply grows. Its beauty appears without striving. Its life unfolds within the care of God. Jesus reminded His listeners that even the wealth and power of King Solomon, known throughout history for his splendor, could not match the elegance displayed in a single wildflower.
Creation itself quietly displays the creativity of God. Psalm 104, verse 24, expresses that wonder beautifully. O Lord, how manifold are your works! In wisdom you made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. Pause for a moment and reflect on those words. Every landscape holds evidence of divine attention. Every living thing carries a trace of the wisdom that formed it. Nothing in creation exists without purpose. Meditate on that truth for a moment. The same God who designed the patterns inside a flower also formed the patterns inside your life. Nothing about your story developed outside his awareness. Every step has unfolded within his knowledge. Every season has passed beneath his care. Jesus continued drawing the lesson deeper. If that is how God clothed the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, how much more will he clothe you? Flowers appear for a short season. Their beauty fades quickly. Still, God covers them with remarkable detail. The comparison reveals something powerful. Temporary things receive attention from the Creator. How much greater must be the care for a life created in His image?
Fear often grows from the feeling of being overlooked. Trust grows from remembering that God's attention has never left you. Jesus then addressed the deeper pattern behind human anxiety. The nations of the world chase after food, clothing, security, and comfort with relentless energy. Entire societies organize themselves around the pursuit of those things. Success becomes measured by accumulation. Peace becomes tied to possessions. Yet Jesus offered a different perspective. Your Father knows that you need them. Notice the tenderness of those words. Not a distant authority, not a detached ruler, a father. Awareness of your needs already exists before a single prayer is spoken. Psalm 37, verse 25, reflects this same truth. I have been young and now am old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken or their children begging for bread. Generations pass, empires rise and fall, human systems change, yet the faithfulness of God remains steady across every generation. Take another quiet breath and allow that promise to settle. Provision has never depended solely on human systems. Provision begins with the one who created the world itself. Jesus then revealed the principle that reshapes everything. Luke chapter 12, verse 31 records his words, "Seek his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well." Matthew's gospel records the same teaching with similar clarity. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. The order matters. Life often tries to reverse it. Security first, peace later. Comfort first, faith later. Control first, trust later. Jesus invited his followers into a different rhythm. Priority belongs to the kingdom. Alignment with God becomes the starting point. Everything else finds its proper place afterward. Anxiety loses much of its power once the heart remembers what truly comes first. The message did not remove responsibility from daily life. Work would still continue. Families would still require care. Needs would still exist. Yet the center of life shifts. Fear no longer sits on the throne. Faith begins to guide the heart. Jesus then spoke with remarkable gentleness. "Do not be afraid, little flock." That phrase carries warmth. Sheep are easily frightened animals. They scatter quickly when danger appears. A shepherd understands their nervous nature and protects them with patience and care.
Through that image, Jesus reminded his followers of their relationship with God. For your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom, not reluctant, not hesitant, pleased. Joy exists in the heart of God when he cares for his children. Jeremiah chapter 17 verses 7 and 8 offers a powerful picture of that trust. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water, sending out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when heat comes. Its leaves are always green. The environment around that tree may become harsh. Heat may arrive. Drought may appear. Still, the roots remain connected to a deeper source. Life continues because the connection remains strong. Faith works in the same way. External circumstances change. Uncertainty sometimes appears. Yet a heart rooted in God continues to draw strength from a deeper place. This teaching eventually led Jesus towards a final principle about the direction of the human heart. Treasure shapes affection. What we value most eventually directs what we think about, what we pursue, and what we trust. That truth becomes the doorway into the final part of this reflection. Because once the heart discovers where true treasure exists, worry begins to lose its power completely. And that realization prepares the way for a prayer that releases the weight so many people carry quietly inside. The direction of the heart determines the direction of life. Jesus brought the entire teaching to that point with a simple but powerful statement. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Those words reveal something many people overlook. The heart does not simply choose its treasure. More often, the heart quietly follows wherever treasure has already been placed. Time, attention, and emotional energy slowly gather around whatever we consider most valuable. Thoughts return to it throughout the day. Plans form around it. Worry often grows in the same place. If security becomes tied only to temporary things, anxiety grows naturally, because temporary things are always fragile. Money fluctuates. Opportunities change. Human systems rise and fall. Placing the weight of the heart entirely on those foundations creates constant instability. Jesus invited his followers to place their treasure somewhere different. Treasure stored in the kingdom of God cannot collapse. Nothing on earth can remove it. Circumstances cannot erode it. Fear cannot steal it. A heart anchored there begins to experience a different kind of peace. Psalm 16 verse 8 expresses that stability beautifully. I keep my eyes always on the Lord. With him at my right hand, I will not be shaken. Allow that promise to settle gently inside your thoughts. Life continues to move through changing seasons, yet a heart fixed on God stands on something unmovable. Psalm 55 verse 22 offers another invitation. Cast your burden on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never permit the righteous to be moved. Take a slow breath. Imagine placing every concern you carry into the hands of God. Every unanswered question, every uncertainty about tomorrow, every quiet fear that follows you through the night. His strength is never exhausted. His provision never runs dry. His care for his children never fades. Jesus ended his teaching with a phrase filled with tenderness. Do not be afraid, little flock. Those words hold a remarkable warmth. A shepherd speaks that way to animals that easily panic. The voice of the shepherd calms them because they know they are not alone in the field. God understands the human heart in the same way. Moments of fear appear. Uncertainty sometimes surrounds us. Questions about the future rise without warning. Situations arise that seem beyond our understanding. Instead of pretending strength, I bring those realities before you now. Your word reminds me that life is more than food and clothing, more than possessions and plans. Real security begins with knowing you. The ravens in the sky depend on your provision each day. Flowers in the fields display beauty without striving. Creation itself quietly testifies to your faithful care. Help my heart remember that truth when anxiety begins to grow. Teach me to trust you more deeply. Teach me to seek your kingdom above everything else. Priorities sometimes drift toward temporary things. Responsibilities and pressures easily take center stage. Realign my heart so that your presence remains first. Guide my thoughts when fear tries to take control. Replace restless thinking with confidence in your character. You know every need that exists in my life before a single word reaches my lips. Nothing surprises you. Nothing overwhelms you. The future already rests inside your wisdom. Because of that, I release my worries into your hands. Concerns about provision are placed before you. Uncertainty about tomorrow is placed before you. Questions that have not yet found answers are placed before you. Strength comes from knowing that you are the source of all things. Human systems change, yet your faithfulness never changes. Doors sometimes close, yet your ability to provide never disappears. Opportunities shift, yet your guidance continues to lead those who trust you. Calm the places in my heart where fear has taken root. Replace those thoughts with peace that comes from your promises. Give wisdom for each step that lies ahead. Provide the courage to live with faith rather than anxiety. Teach my heart to treasure what truly lasts. Help me invest my life in things that carry eternal value. Love that reflects your character. Kindness that honors your name. Faith that remains steady even when circumstances are uncertain. Today I choose trust instead of worry. Today I choose faith instead of fear. Today I choose your kingdom above temporary security. Thank you for being a Father who sees, who cares, and who provides. Your love never fails. Your presence never leaves. Your faithfulness remains through every season of life. I rest in that truth today. In the name of Jesus, amen. If this reflection spoke to your heart today, take a moment and write this simple declaration in the comments. Lord, I choose your kingdom first. Let those words become a quiet reminder of where your trust belongs. Thank you for sharing this moment of reflection. May peace guard your heart as you continue seeking God first. And if God allows, we will meet again here tomorrow.